everybody, Lee here with Season's Ebb and Flow channel. And today I'm going to be interviewing Kelli. And Kelli owns a studio that has these float pods. And I got the opportunity to experience floating for the first time. And so I wanted to interview her and learn a little bit more about, because it was such an unusual experience for me and relaxing in really different ways than anything I've done before. And so I thought most people probably don't know about floating pods and what they are. And so I wanted to share some great information about them. So, but I'm going to let Kelli introduce herself and tell us a little bit about how you even found float. So,
yeah. Hi, I'm Kelli Hastings. I'm also known as the yoga lawyer. So I am a yogi and an attorney, and I own Total Zen Float, which is the sensory deprivation float and yoga studio in Central Florida. And I bought it in 2019 from the prior owners. I had been floating there for years. I started floating there back in like 2014, and two younger guys owned it. And one of them ended up in Asheville, the other one in law school. And it needed some work. Like one of the tank rooms needed some repairs, and they were just gonna like let it go. And one thing led to another. Never thought I would own a float and yoga studio, but then I did, and it's pretty sweet. I mean, it started because I just love floating, and I thought maybe I could just get one of their tanks. Like, I don't have anywhere to put it, but then there was a lot of people I felt like that still needed this resource that this place is, and that it's almost got like its own energy and desires. Like it wasn't ready to leave. So I ended up stepping in, and like I said, I've owned it about 4 years now, and I use it. I try to go at least once a week and float, and I can talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so when my experience was finding that getting to float in water, like I love water. I love going in my pool. I love taking baths. So for me, water is definitely like very soothing and calming. And this was so different because you don't have to make any effort to float.
Yeah.
And what is it about the water? Like what's in there that lets you, I mean, I'm assuming it's salt, but like,
yeah, it's super buoyant. They say it's like the Dead Sea. It's Epsom salt, magnesium sulfate, which is really good for your skin, but also the benefits have been known for probably thousands of years about what it can do for, your muscles and your joints and helping the body. So
yeah,
each pod is filled with about 200 gallons of water and 1,000 pounds of Epsom salt, so like a half a ton of
wow.
salt. Super thick, like viscous. You can almost feel it. I don't know if you notice, like when you touch the salt.
Oh yeah,
it water feels like
a little bit of a slickness.
Yeah. And so
Yeah.
because of that, you're super buoyant. So it requires no effort to float. We get some people who'll say, I can't swim, I can't float. And I'm like, you will float in here. It's impossible not to float. And then they say they go and try to float in a pool or the ocean, and now they can, because they sort of discovered that buoyancy in this.
And that feeling of letting yourself relax in water completely without feeling like you have to do anything to stay up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I mean, I sometimes put Epsom salts in my bath. So you get the benefit of the Epsom salt.
That on steroids, like take it to 1,000, like your Epsom salt bath.
Right.
Accelerated.
So I have a video I think I took just of the room. So maybe I'll integrate into this video somehow, because I think it's hard for people to visualize like what this must be like, but I'll explain. It's like almost imagine one of those pods that people use. I'll reverse back to imagine.
Okay.
I've gotten used to him doing that. It's like if somebody walks by or whatever. Okay. Imagine one of those like sun saunas that people use to go tan, but instead of just the tan machine. It's water that's only like this deep or so, and it's like warm, and and it has a lid that you close. So you're in like this pod, and you can turn on a light in there, and you can turn on music. It's all inside the pod. You have options, and you just lie optimally in the dark. And they call it like sensory
deprivation.
deprivation.
Yeah.
And what are some of the benefits of sensory deprivation?
So, I mean, sensory deprivation in that, first of all, it's dark and you do have a light option, like you said. So, the eyes are now muted, your eyesight. You wear earplugs and it's pretty soundproof in there anyway. Not soundproof, but it's quiet. So
Mhm.
no sight, no hearing. And then even the water is kept at skin temperature, which is a little warmer than, or a little
Mhm.
cooler than body temperature, so that you get that
Yes.
sensation of almost like your skin and your in the water. You don't know where the skin ends and the water begins. And the
Uh,
idea is sensory deprivation is pulling the senses inward. It's actually an ancient yoga practice, pratyahara, where the senses are withdrawn inward, and then you can really start to notice things in your mind and body. So it's got a
mhm.
lot of physical benefits, of course, from the Epsom salt, for joints and chronic inflammation. But then just the act of being in this environment where there's no sensory stimulus, all day we're stimulated our senses with, we're driving and there's cell phones and screens, and to just be in that
Yes.
calm, dark quietness it's a very different experience in our society
Mhm.
right now. So it lets you go inward, and it's very mentally beneficial, then also spiritually. So it's like the three. And it's kind of
Yes.
whatever you want. Like, if you just want the physical benefit, you'll get it. Like, it's impossible not to when you're laying in Epsom salt for an hour. But if you
Right.
want to go deeper, bring it as a meditation practice or a way to connect or calm the mind, it's there for you to do that too.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really interesting because I realized that I am good at calming my body and my mind through yoga, because there's movement and something for me to focus on, because it's either my breath or the posture and adjusting little
Yeah.
minor things in the posture. But I don't have a meditation practice, and I've always thought I wanted to start one. And in there, like, I was like very chill for like the first 15 minutes, but I realized that I don't have meditation practice at all for calming and being still and slowing everything down for more than 15 minutes. And um I was just kind of like playing then in there, because I was like, I
Yeah.
can't just, so I was like bouncing off the walls a little bit and stuff, floating, kind of like playful. But and then I kind of like would splash the water. So I think, for somebody who thinks there's no way I can lie still for 45 minutes or whatever, it's interesting, it's challenging. If you don't, it's like, I think something that for some of us who are used to having a
Yeah.
lot going on, it's a good way to challenge yourself and explore and try, and then see how long you can really do it for, until you need to start bouncing around in there.
Totally. I mean, it's a practice, and we were saying that before we started recording about how, the more you do it, the better you get at it. But it's okay to do things in the tank too. And we've even got, like, all of our float associates are well versed in giving people things, like little practices. Like, there's breath practices, body scans. You can even stretch and do some yoga postures in there. Like, it's
Yes.
okay if you can't sit still. But some people go in there and they fall asleep and they don't even realize it. They have no intention of that happening.
Wow.
They're out because it's whatever
Yes.
you need. And it's different day to day. So you might do it again maybe at the end of the day and you're more tired and realize that you're a lot more easy to relax. But whatever
Yeah.
you bring to it, you're going to get a good benefit, because just being in Epsom salt for that long is going to give you a benefit
Right.
regardless. And then the more
Right.
you do it, the more you're able to get calm and relax the mind quicker.
Yeah. How did you like happen upon it? Because it's not like it's very prevalent out there.
Yeah. So I started floating there. It was January 2014 was my first float because I recently got like an anniversary email. We do that, and since I'm in the system, I was like, oh, it's anniversary, my first float. But I saw like a friend of mine recommended it, like another kind of yogi type person who's into those type of explorations, and said, you got to try this. And they had a Groupon at the time, and so I bought the Groupon and went and was just like, mind blown. And I used to write a blog, and so I wrote about it on my blog, and they posted it, and so then I ended up developing a relationship with them where I was kind of writing their stuff and doing some videos for them and in exchange for floats. So I was like floating all the time.
Nice. And so your float studio is attached to a yoga studio.
Yeah, it's both. So they started when they got it, they just had the 2 float rooms because we've got 2 float tanks, and then they expanded and bought the yoga side. And then I actually, back in, I think it was 2015 or 16, helped them sort of start their yoga program. So I've been involved with it the whole time, but I didn't become the owner until a few years ago. But so it's connected. It's the same thing, but it was a separate suite of this building. So it's kind of the yoga side and the float side, but they're all Total Zen Float.
Okay. And do you teach at the studio?
I do a teacher training, and then I do with my apprentices. We have like regular practices. I have like a group, and we'll go up there and practice. And anybody who's interested can schedule private sessions with me, or those meetups. You can, on my website, there's more info. But I don't teach like a traditional lead class, but we do have all those, and we've got several teachers who teach regular lead type yoga classes.
Sure. Okay, cool. And how long, like when I did it, it was about 45 minutes. Is that standard?
It's supposed to be an hour. I hope you got a whole hour.
Maybe it was an hour. And I
you get it you're scheduled for like a 90-minute block. We usually do 60-minute or 90-minute floats, but we do offer 2-hour and even overnight. But
oh my gosh, for real?
Yeah, overnight's amazing. That's a whole other experience.
Whoa, you've done an overnight in there?
I have not, but I've hosted many. The longest I float that I can float is like 3 hours. But interestingly, that's usually what happens with overnight is they'll do like, you get 8 hours. So most people do like 3 or 4 hours. They'll get up, they'll maybe use the restroom, get a snack or something, use the yoga room, meditate or do some yoga, and then get back in. So usually it ends up being like 2 sessions. Although we have one lady who could go straight through.
Wow. Like, so she just sleeps her night floating.
But it's sort of energizing. So like after 3 hours, you just like feel awake. You're like, all right, I'm good to go. And they say it's like the equivalent, like 1 hour in the tank's the equivalent of like, I don't remember the ratio, but like 4 hours of sleep or something. So
whoa,
it's supposed to be like a deeper rest.
Yeah. Okay. I definitely need to try it again and see if I can like really chill. It was in the middle of the holiday season, so it's just busy and exciting.
Totally.
You're amped up. So I probably need to mentally prepare to be super chill. And
give you some things to do in the tank. And if you're, if you're not able to be chill, that's okay too. I would say maybe do a little later, in the day.
Yeah. And I think if I do something really physical in the morning, so that my body like really does want to rest. Yeah, I've been working with like yoga nidra and doing body scans and stuff. And I think my mind was just too amped up to like really slow down, but it made me realize like, okay, this is a practice that I need to build a little bit more strength in as far as calming. And it was interesting, the whole temperature. I was imagining it was going to be like super warm. I guess in my mind, I was like, oh, I'm going to go take a nice hot bath, but get the boat. And so the temperature was an interesting surprise for me, that it was like body temperature almost, or a little cooler.
Yeah. and we can adjust it a little bit because if you tend to be cold, which I am, I usually, there's two little tricks I have. One is I turn the fan off in the room because you get, in the
Yeah.
tank you were in, you get a little airflow in the sides. The other tank, Oasis, you don't, but in Genesis, you get a little airflow. So if you turn the vent off in the room, that it won't be as
Mhm.
cold, and then we can sneak it up a degree or two, but we don't want to turn it too hot because it's then it gets uncomfortable. There's
Right.
just a little bit of a window of where you can be, the cooler edge or the warmer edge, but it's only like a 2 or 3 degree range.
Yes, yes.
But I was going to say, you can actually, if you like yoga nidra, we can do this where we can play that in the tank. Like you can play like a whole
Mm.
recording, or if you have it on your phone, the Oasis tank has Bluetooth. You could just, if you've got a meditation, if you wanted to like
Oh,
do something, like if it's better to have kind of like a guided meditation.
yes. Yeah, yeah. That's what I've been doing a lot of is the guided yoga nidra body
Yeah,
scan. And it's that's the first thing that I've found that I can like lie still. And of course my mind still goes, but I can bring it back. And I've really noticed doing that how much tension I hold in my body without
yeah,
even realizing it. And I think that for sure this is probably something that would help with that as well, to be able to relax into something, but without the traditional support of the ground beneath you. It's like a whole different sensation.
for sure, for sure.
Yeah. What are some of the regulars? Like, is it for different, some people come more for the physical benefits,
Yeah,
or what are some of the
you get
different?
both. So yeah, I can give you a little picture, like because we've got a couple floaters who come like almost every day, like 4 times a week, and then we get people that come twice a month or once a month or once a week. We've got
Yeah.
kind of a range. But one of our floaters who comes almost every day is a veteran who has degenerative disc disease, and he comes first thing in the morning, and it really helps him, go on with his day. I
Huh.
think it also benefits like PTSD. I mean, I know it benefits those things, but for him, I think it helps him specifically in that way too. But he's definitely coming more because he can't function without like he uses, he was using like assistive devices to walk, and it really just made such a difference for him to come daily.
Wow,
Um,
that's
and then
wonderful.
yeah, so there's a program with veterans and floating, where they try to pair veterans with different float tanks around the United States. And I was hearing about it, and I was contacted by them before the pandemic, and we were setting it up, and I haven't heard much since. So I don't know if it died off, but I say that to say there's a lot of evidence, science based, about the benefits for PTSD and also for any kind of chronic injury.
Yeah.
So then to flip to another floater who was coming every night, he was coming in the morning. She had lost her father, right before she started floating, and it's been about 2 years now, and it really helped her get through the grief. And of course, grief is ongoing, but it really, during that acute stage, was beneficial to her in that way. So you get those. Those are just two little examples, and of course,
Yeah.
people come for different. I try to float every week mainly as like a meditative practice, but also body. I do a lot of active stuff, and sometimes I'm like, I just need a float, like I'm sore, kind of like a little bit
Right.
massage.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's awesome. Well, I'm really excited to integrate just a few pictures and videos while we're talking into this final video so that people who've never even seen this concept can get a picture of what it's like.
Yeah,
Um,
I've got some pictures too if you need. I can, from our website
yeah,
and stuff. We can.
yeah. Okay, that would be great. Yeah, the closest I could like try and like
Yeah,
to give people an idea is like imagine floating in a pool, but you have like a pool noodle, like, or a float underneath you, but you're in the water.
as
Like,
far as
oh,
what it
I have
feels
a
like.
float that's like a mesh float and you're just lying there. It has a similar feel to that.
Yeah,
But
because it doesn't feel like, it almost feels like a solid thing. Like you feel a lot more supported than you do in regular water, and it
yes,
looks sort of like a hot tub with a lid on it. Like it's bigger. I know you were saying tanning bed, but it's like, wider too. And then yeah, because it's not solid, so you get the sensation of being water, but it feels a lot more solid than a
yeah,
regular
yeah, like
water. situation. Mesh is
Absolutely.
probably a good way to say it. Kind of like if you were floating on one of those.
Yeah, right. Well, in the video links, I'll post links to your studio and
That'd be
some
great.
pictures. And yeah, I guess if anybody has more questions about it, they can reach out to you. I'll put some information in there for them to be able to have direct contact. But
Cool.
for anybody who's considering different modalities for relaxation, this is just a really neat experience to try. And I think it either works for some people or it doesn't. You either love it or you're like,
Yeah.
cool, a good experience, and move on to find the right thing for you. So but I thank you for your time
Yeah, thank
and
you.
letting me try that. I think I'm going to give it another try because I want to work on my meditation practice, and this I think would be a good way to challenge
It is.
myself with it.
It's definitely a great
So
way to meditate. Yeah. Awesome.
yeah,
Well, thank you.
you're welcome. I'll see you soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, Lee.
All right. I'm about to try the float sense deprivation tank for an hour. I just climb in, turn off the light, and float in the salt water with earplugs and do like a body scan and chill out. So I'll see you on the other side of relaxation. So I just got out of my pod. They're doing like a cleansing thing, I guess. I showered and got dressed, and I feel pretty good. It was really unusual. I have to say, it was so different to anything I've ever tried. I got a tiny bit bored towards the end, but I think that's a sign that I need to be better at meditating and chilling out. And you don't have to worry if you get a little water in your eyes. There's a spray bottle in there, and I did, and the spray bottle worked, so I tested it out for you. That was just because I was reaching over instead of for no reason. It was my mistake. You're not gonna get salt water in your eyes easily. I feel good now, and floating is really a unique feeling. So if you have any curiosity, give it a try. I didn't feel any like claustrophobia. You close the lid and turn off the light, and there's music if you want. I tried both. I like music actually, but I did float around for a while. I would like kick and, oh, you know what I really liked is the water's kind of like not liquidy, silky feeling. And I would like splash water on myself and then rub it all over me, because I really like the sensations. So that was probably my favorite part. But go float.